part of the San Jose State University community. I wish you well. It is now my pleasure to introduce Shannon Quihuiz, who is our Director of Student Conduct and Ethical Development. Please join me in welcoming Shannon.
Well, you'll probably hear this quite a few times today, but welcome, welcome, welcome to San Jose State University. My name's Shannon Quihuiz, and I'm the Director of Student Conduct and Ethical Development. So my role today is to inform you a little bit about what you signed up for as enrolling as a San Jose State University student. So specifically, when you decide to be a student at our campus, you are afforded certain rights and responsibilities. For instance, you live in the state of California, so now you are subject to our law, regulations, and policies. You're at San Jose State University, so you're subject to our university policies and procedures. How many of you are living on campus? Not very many? Okay, so if you're living on campus, you will be subject to housing policies, and each and every one of your classes will have distinct rules and regulations because you'll have a contract with each faculty member that will be in the result of your syllabus, and also a green sheet. So it's really important that you know what is expected of you at being a part of our community. So today I'm going to briefly touch upon what your responsibility is, and that is knowing our student conduct code, and then I'm going to specifically focus on Executive Order 1074, which is our system-wide policies towards discrimination, harassment, and retaliation, focusing on sexual discrimination or sex discrimination. All right, so this is a snapshot of our student conduct code. Basically, these are different violations that if you violate them, you are subject to university and student discipline. This can range from dishonesty to unauthorized entry to illegal use of substances, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's super important to note that you are responsible for your behavior, and you are responsible for knowing our policies and procedures at San Jose State. So I really encourage you, I can flip back to our website. It's listed on the bottom there. I really encourage you to check our website, and all the policies and procedures are located there. All right, so specifically focusing on sexual discrimination in Executive Order 1074, sex discrimination is treating someone unfavorably because of their sex or gender. Sex is the biological side of us, so it's the parts that we have, it's what we are assigned at birth. Gender is more of the way we express ourselves, so that could be in the way we behave, the way we dress, the way that people perceived us. So either of those are protected under our sexual discrimination policies and procedures. This includes sexual harassment, sexual violence, relationship violence, which is also known as intimate partner violence or dating violence, and stalking. What's important to know is that each and every one of us grew up in a different household, have a different context, and understand these broad, really intense, complex subjects in a different way. In the United States and at San Jose State University, it is expected of you to understand these as a shared and equal power. So depending on what sex you are, how you identify, that is shared and that's equal and that's afforded to all people at San Jose State University and in the United States. So let me describe a little bit. These definitions will be sort of fast, and this is just a teaser, so I really encourage you, again, to go to our website, refer to the policies and procedures that are listed out to you, but I'll go into each one really briefly. Okay, so sexual harassment is unwanted contact that is severe, pervasive, or persistent, and it inhibits a person's ability to participate in or benefit from the university's services, programs, classes, ... And so what this may look like in real life is unwanted sexual advances. Say a faculty member hits on you and asks you out and you don't want that to happen. That would be subject to sexual harassment, or requests for sexual favors, or continual sex stereotyping. So if you had a student in your class who constantly said, you know, women are beneath me, they do household work, they do this and that, that's sex stereotyping, and that's not something that we permit on our campus. All right, sexual violence is any non-consensual sexual act. So this may be physical without consent, or someone may not have the capacity to give consent. And those are age, use of illegal substance or alcohol, or, sorry, the last one just flew my mind, any kind of disability. So what this means is if you plan to have drunk sex, not something that you're not able to do, because if someone is drunk or incapacitated, they do not have the capacity to give consent. What this also may look like is unwanted sexual touching. It can be rape, sexual assault, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So sexual violence really is a huge spectrum, and anything within that spectrum where you don't obtain consent is something that is not allowed on our campuses. I'm going to briefly discuss the myths that we have about sexual violence. And a lot of times our media and our culture perpetuates these myths. And some of them are, you know, we expect rape to occur in a dark alley by a stranger. You expect the person who's subject to rape to yell and scream and fight back. We also have perpetuated in our media and our culture that victims are women and our men are our perpetrators. Again, these are all myths, so it's important to go back to what we said originally, and that it's equal and shared power, and any time that it's not that, that's when it would be a violation. So yeah, let's remove those myths. So let me tell you a little bit about what it is. So consent is, sorry, I lost my place on my paper. Okay, here it is. So consent is to willingly engage in a shared sexual act. And that's really important because if, let's say you're dating someone and you start to kiss them, you need to make sure that they consent to the physical act of kissing. Now, say you want to take it to the next step farther and you want to engage in sexual intercourse. You have to check in with that person to see if they are okay with that. You can't just assume, oh, because we're kissing, now we can have sex. Like, that does not equal consent. You have to get that obtained from that person. So what consent is not, it's not unwanted, an assumption, silence, pressure, being drunk or wasted, having intimidation or physical force. But what it is it's sexy, it's wanted, it's something that is clear and sober, and again, that shared and mutual power exists. So it's really important, again, to consistently check in with your partner or the person who you plan to engage in these kinds of acts with, because if consent is not obtained, you are in violation of not only our policies on San Jose State, but city and state and federal policies, and it could have huge consequences to you, which I will explain in a moment. Briefly talking about relationship violence, I again encourage you to look this up further, but ultimately relationship violence is coercive behaviors that are used to control another person for the intent of fear and intimidation. This could look in a variety of different ways. It could be emotional abuse, so you're constantly belittling and making that person feel little or criticizing them, or it could be economic. You can hold the sole power of the finances and say, this person you can't do this, and like restrict their ability to do anything. Or it can be more towards the physical and sexual, where you're actually doing like physical and sexual harm to someone. Sleeping with them while they're asleep, those types of things, that would fall under relationship or interpersonal violence. The last definition is stalking, and this is a broader subject as technology has made stalking really unique and distinct in and among our nation. But ultimately, stalking is any conduct subject to a person that would cause reasonable fear, like cause someone to have reasonable fear. And so in the technology world, you know, we have GPS systems that people will track and just constantly follow, and you know, you're just feeling like, how did this person know I was there? How did they know I was in that class? And it's because there's kind of that following or tracking someone, and then also monitoring like different electronic devices you're on, or your cell phone, and ultimately there's some kind of threat to hurt the person who is subject to that, or their family members or loved ones. All right, so let's say you or a friend are subject to something I just described before. Again, sex discrimination. What can you do? Remember our color silver. So safety, inform, listen, validate, empower, and refer. I will briefly touch upon each. So safety is, you want to address if you or your friend is in immediate safety risk. If the answer is yes, you need to call 911 or our university police department, because you need someone who has the capacity to do something about that and remove you from harm. How many of you are going to be teaching assistants or research assistants? A few? Okay, so for those of you who are considered employees, you have an extra step, and that's inform. If you're on campus in your role and someone were to disclose this to you, you have to let them know that you have a limit to confidentiality. What that means is basically you have to consult with someone. You need to call my office. You need to call the Office of Equal Opportunity and inform them, hey, my student told me this, or my friend told me this, and I just want to make sure I gave them all the resources and reporting options. You want to listen and be listened to without judgment. The last thing you want to feel or have a friend feel is unbelieved or disvalidated. Show compassion and empathy, and don't be an investigator. Leave that role to myself, the police. Don't ask questions. Don't ask, why did you dress that way? Why were you doing that behavior? Why did you get that drunk? Leave all of that blame and judgment out of the picture and just support that person, which leads to the next two. Validate their feelings and emotions and empower them with all the resources and reporting options. So let them make the decision. Let them choose what kind of path they want to have. And then lastly, refer them to those reporting and support services. Excuse me, I lost my brain. Okay, so at San Jose State, we have 3 distinct reporting options. Specifically, you can report to University Police Department. You can call their number or go to their website, and really the police department looks for violations of the California law. So this will be like a criminal proceeding. The next 2 processes are university processes. So we have the Office of Equal Opportunity. They look for violations and support folks who are subject to university policy. And our office in Student Conduct and Ethical Development, we look for violations of the Student Conduct Code, which was one of the first slides I showed up here earlier. So let's say that you find yourself in this situation, or a friend finds yourself in your situation, and you're wondering what may happen. It can be pretty serious. So if a person goes through the criminal proceeding, you have the capacity to be subject to those processes. A lot of times that might mean jail time. A lot of times that might be restitution, different kinds of things like that. So it's both criminal and civil. In the university system, we follow our Executive Order 1073 and 1074 and university processes. Ultimately, what you are subject to are the sanctions listed. Usually, if it's this kind of behavior, we take that very seriously and we don't want you part of our community, so we're looking towards the latter: expulsion, suspension, probation. If you are an international student, this severely impacts your visa. You can forget being a part of our community at San Jose, in addition to the United States, because this kind of record will inhibit your ability to continue at our school. So again, the behavior is very, very serious, but that's why, we give you those support services and those reporting options, and we really want you to break down those barriers of, this is it's equal power, and we want it to be about consent. So what you can do, so these are just some community resources. Every presentation that you're going to be involved in later as you continue your education here will have resources galore, but ultimately the resources on this page are confidential. What that means is you can have a conversation with them and it's going nowhere. No one will know about it. It's between you and that person. And so counseling services is on our campus, and the YWCA and Nextdoor are off-site community resources. Some other resources on campus, if you felt more connected to a constituent group, for instance, our Mosaic Cross-Cultural Center or our Women's Resource Center or the LGBT Center, you can go talk to staff there, talk to students there. And we also have the Student Health Center, so if there was sexual violence, you can seek medical attention. The last thing I want to mention is, what can you do to inform yourself? Like, how do you become a better citizen of our community and the world? And ultimately, we have a program at San Jose called our Empowered Bystander. And basically, an empowered bystander is someone who witnesses potentially harmful behavior and takes action, and which has the potential to lead to positive outcomes. So we have trainings that will be available and posted on our Student Health Services website. You could specifically go to this link later to see when those are, but ultimately you are a member of this community, and not only are you supposed to follow our rules and procedures and policies, but you are required to have your friends and your peers and your classmates, and if you're an employee, your students follow our policies and procedures and rules. So I know this was a great way to start you out and say welcome to the university, but ultimately we're very thankful to have you here, very excited for your future at San Jose, and if you have any questions, refer back to the first slide, which has our phone number and our website address. Thank you.